Welcome to episode 26 of season 5 of Whole Lot of Wolves. I'm Joshua Buckley with co-host Paul LePage back on the squad this week.
Greetings.
We got our producer, Alex Patakis.
Good evening.
And in Baltimore, Kendrick Lamar superfan, Mr. Danny Coletti.
I'll take that. Good evening.
Well, guys, we asked the question last week, would Wolves be up for the cup? And they sure look like it. A very businessman-like 2-0 win. Paul, what were your thoughts on the game?
It was refreshing to, right from the kickoff, effectively settle into what could have been a tricky ground to go to, tricky opponents, but really get a pretty comfortable grasp of the game early doors and look really comfortable. I think what helped would probably be, obviously, fielded a strong team with the likes of Cunha starting and Agbadou and the like. So it's encouraging for me that the cup is definitely seen as a priority, and even to the extent of not necessarily being a priority, but just knowing that wins bring momentum. So that was a positive. So just to really, bed in, get to grips with the opponent, the ground and everything, how they were set up, how we were going to set up, and then really ultimately come into the game, be very clinical, and then really had the opportunity to sit back in the second half and enjoy it and get some minutes in the legs of those that needed it, and see a few different things, which was good. So yeah, I think business-like, definitely the word of the description to explain it, and into the hat for the next round.
Danny, there was a little bit of a nerve-wracking moment when a Blackburn goal was disallowed. So what were your thoughts on that?
Well, I think people were probably right that it probably wasn't offside, and obviously it went for Wolves in this case, but I still prefer no VAR because I've been on the Drunken United podcast last night. Obviously, go check them out. Good friends of the pod, talking about the whole FA Cup round with all the non-VAR, decisions happening, and it's just I don't know. Then you can just say well, the linesman misread it, or the linesman has a bias towards clubs that are in the Premier League, and then you just move on instead of talking about it for weeks. And so it's exactly I think it was probably not offside. You're not so sure, but I think that's kind of the end of the discussion, and it's just satisfying to not have to relitigate these things forever. And not for nothing, but I don't really think that the foul that was given that led to the goal was a foul. So, fair is fair.
It was a tough angle, I thought, Alex, to be able to even see if it was offsides. I mean, they had the one angle, but nothing really close. So I couldn't really say one way or another if he was onside.
Yeah, I mean, it was really tight. If we were drawing the lines, it would have been one you have to kind of eke out until to the very end when you see what the result is on the screen, right? But I don't know. I agree with Danny in every sense. It's just whether or not they made the right call. I agree. I don't know that I can fully say with confidence that is what happened, but I like that a call was made and play continued, right? There is something very refreshing about that, which is, easy for us to say as Wolves fans, I guess, that we would be more satisfied with officiating at this level if there were no VAR, but it's true. It's not what anyone is really talking about in the narrative of so many of these games, and I'm sure all of them had some really tight calls. It's just it's nice to just talk about the football, and focus on that.
Yeah, you didn't have a 5-minute stoppage like Man City and Real Madrid today to figure out an offside. So Paul, kind of crazy there. It was looking like, well, are Wolves going to be able to get on the score sheet. And then back-to-back goals. The first one by Toti Gomes, kind of a nice little light tap that ended up rolling in, followed by another Matheus Cunha mastermind. Which of those two goals did you enjoy the most?
I think both have got their high spots, but just when you see how the actual play formed for the second goal, that you think it was a great finish, but then the assist from Semedo to set it up. But then watching the clips of Agbadou today, it went all the way back to one of his out balls that started that whole move. So I think as a turning defense into attack, that second one, having the collective involvement of so many players and the icing on top of Cunha being in form with a good finish, that's big for me.
Danny, I kind of felt like, and maybe this is just me, I kind of felt like Cunha had a little bit of extra swagger about him in this match now that he signed the contract extension. I don't know. It was just kind of a different aura, just kind of like him saying, I'm the man.
Yeah. I think he did still suffer a little bit from being a little bit anonymous like he has in the last month or so, but he was definitely much more present. And you can't doubt that. I mean, he was tracking back, like infinitely more than he has been the last few games. There was like that one play that he, basically ran 70 yards to corner someone off by the sideline and win the ball back. And that's like kind of what we've come to expect, for better or worse. I think I saw someone on Twitter say that, it's a good thing we added that track back clause to his new contract because it's paying off already. But yeah, I mean, definitely a much swaggier performance. I mean, that goal is a really tough goal to score. It's a difficult angle and it all kind of happens very fast, but it's also exactly the kind of goal that we come to expect him to score. He seems to be so good at those angles. He can find that slice between the goalkeeper and the far post almost every time. So it's good to see, and also gives a lot of confidence for the rest of the season.
I did see one comment on Twitter, Alex, where somebody was kind of saying that Cunha was acting a little Hollywood. Now, my argument there would be, well, he's a premier striker. Guess what? They're all Hollywood. It's just kind of comes with the territory. Do you agree or disagree, Alex?
I agree in that I think it comes with the territory. I don't know that I fully agree that I noticed any distinguishable difference in how Hollywood he was being in this match compared to any other one. But I mean, look, like he's one of the best players we've seen in the modern Premier League era for Wolves. Like, God forbid he acts like it. I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't mind. Yeah. I don't mind as long as he's invested, which he clearly is reinvested after a very brief stint of seeming like he wasn't. So, how he carries himself, I don't think he does anything that's really unprofessional. I mean, maybe he dives a little and asks for calls, but like, again, this is the Premier League. This is what players do. So yeah, I'm digging his vibe right now in a major way, especially because he's continually producing. So like, of course he's gonna have that swag. You know how like they say people complain about diva wide receivers, and then there's like coaches who will be like, I want my receivers to have an ego. I want them to want the ball every single play. Like that's how I feel about Matheus Cunha. Like I want him to feel like he's the guy, because he is right now for Wolves. He certainly is.
Yeah, you see that with receivers, with those
I would say like
guards in the NBA.
Primary scorers in basketball, right? Like I mean,
absolutely.
If they're hot, like they're not passing, like I don't really care. Like if they're gonna call for 45, go off. Yeah,
it just kind of comes with the territory. I mean, and we've seen when Wolves were a different team and had struggled to score, how much you can suffer when you don't have players who desperately want the ball every single time. And like Cunha, maybe more so than many other players, but he wants the ball every single time, even when it's not the right pass. And sometimes he won't get the pass and he'll throw his arms up. but he wants it every single time because he knows he can score most of those chances. So, you take the rough with the smooth.
Yeah, and comparatively, I feel like, I don't know if this is just me, continuing my vendetta. I feel like he's less Hollywood than Neto, and he also plays way more football for us than Neto got to, right? So, again, it comes with the territory. He's probably the next best or best talent we've had since, Neto in his heyday, probably better. And, the behavior and the attitude is really similar, but that's what it is, so.
Man,
I don't know. I really
is like my hate for Nunez.
I could take any question you throw out at me and somehow turn it into like a Pedro Neto slight. I really got to get over it. He was a great player for this club, but
man, he did one celebration and Alex is like,
Well, it's not even working out that well for him. So
stunning. Well, Paul, the second half, Wolves really could have sat back and just played it easy, but really they should have had a few more goals added.
Yeah, chance creation, I think, was a positive. You probably might have liked to have seen the net ripple a few more times. Again, just based on confidence and so forth. But even with all of that, again, these fixtures can be somewhat of a banana skin. So to get through it how comfortably we did, very much in second gear in the second half, and not really having that need to kick on and push for more goals. I think it just goes to show it was a nice, well-rounded, measured performance.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the defense, Danny. Toti back in the lineup again, 4-0 with 4 clean sheets with Mr. Toti Gomes back there. Was he the missing piece?
I mean, it's quite an insane stat. I mean, at first it's just a kind of a curiosity, and yes, again, the level of the opponent, but how long can he keep it going? I mean, the biggest test is yet to come this coming weekend at Anfield. If he keeps a clean sheet there, we're really going to have to start doing some investigation. But no, I think it makes a ton of sense in some ways. I mean, first of all, just players getting to be in their more natural positions. Him on the left, Agbadou in the middle. It's just like, it's made us stronger. It's made us better at tracking back, at covering runs. But yeah, it's just also he's a bit of an underrated player. He's not a world beater. We all see his obvious deficiencies sometimes, but he's an extremely useful player. And he showed that in this game with a couple of 50-yard runs out from the back. So yeah, I'm ready for it.
Man, you want to talk about beasts, and that is what Agbadou is doing right now. What a signing, Alex. I mean, holy cow. This guy was meant for the Premier League, it feels like.
Yeah, it definitely does, because, all we hear is constantly how physical this league is. And so far in every match he's played, he seems every bit more physical than the opposition that he has come up against. I think my favorite thing in this game was how clear of a non-penalty it was when, I forget who the player was on Blackburn, tried to dive in the box. And it was so obvious that Agbadou did absolutely nothing to warrant getting that call. And got him booked as a result of it for simulation, which I think was outstanding. And to that point, one thing that I think we've seen over the past couple of weeks is officials actually kind of respecting the physicality of Agbadou. There's a lot of times I think that very similar contact would have been made. I'm thinking back now, to the Villa game a few times in that match where refs are just play on, he's a big dude that it looks like you're flopping. I do believe his strength is just becoming a really big factor for them right now. I'm so excited to see what they do. I'm still confused. Last week I was talking about how I kind of like the idea of him playing in the middle. I still don't know how good he could be as a right center back in our back three, because who knows, that could unlock a whole nother level of him, right? Because he is good on the ball. He has a ton of athleticism. He has some range. So yeah, I'm I'm just so pleased, like value signing wise, I think it's an unbelievable move. And Wolves have like Toti Gomes is obviously a player with ridiculous upside. I think we all know that. Agbadou and to some degree Munetsi, whether he pans out, I'm not trying to compare it like he's done nothing yet for Wolves, but like it's a different profile of player than Wolves would normally get. It's not the early 20s guy who's looking to just make a name for himself. This is a very professional player, right? In his mid to late 20s, who's been around. He's played against the likes of, Mbappe and Messi and Neymar, those guys, and then whoever else might make a pit stop in the French league. And I think that Wolves to some degree needed that because like when we've been toiling around with relegation for the past couple of seasons here and there, I think a certain level of professionalism has been lacking. And when you consistently sell your captains and your veteran players who have reached that point and you expect, 21, 22-year-olds to come in, it hasn't worked out. So if anything, I mean, maybe I'm completely overestimating them. But and the type of recruitment Hobbs did in this window, but it seems like they might have learned a lesson. Like maybe we can't get Premier League experience because our budget doesn't allow us to, but we can still get players with experience, right? Like they got an experienced center back who's played in the Champions League in Giga. They've got a guy in Agbadou who's faced some really talented players and who's been around for a while. And Munetsi, who's like almost 30? What is he, 28 or something like that?
Yeah.
So, these aren't like wonder kids anymore who just don't pan out. They're just like solid professional players. There's nothing wrong with that. And Agbadou has just been more than solid. So, so far, the best of the bunch.
Yeah, I mean, it's, just a small point to what you were alluding to there. I think Hobbs has come under some fire just because in general, the transfer strategy has not lived up to a lot of fans' expectations. And I don't think that this necessarily, completely vindicates the job Hobbs is doing. I think it's still very hard to really, describe exactly how much control he has over it. But, you have to say that the recruitment department, so far looking pretty good coming out of January, at the very least with Agbadou, because this is a guy that wasn't really linked much of anywhere before he came over. Certainly not, known to Wolves really. Wolves fans, I mean, obviously. And so if that ends up being the case, if he ends up being such an important part of our defense, I mean, that's a credit to the scouting department right there.
Paul, how does Agbadou compare to like Willy Bally when he first came into the squad? Because I think kind of a similar profile.
A lot of people are saying, oh, he's definitely the best centre-half we've had since. And I think we could just stop that since and could just say he's our best centre-half ever. No?
Wow. After a few matches, huh? That's awesome.
Yeah, that's like, I am going off big time. But I think like ceiling-wise, he's got everything. And just a lot to what was just mentioned about his particular profile, in that it has seemed, or it does seem more apparent, that we've really lacked that leadership element, and from that the spine of the team leadership. So you got those point persons, centre back, centre midfield, forward that you can look to in those positions to bring that leadership and bring that guidance. He looks like he's got some of that as well. That he's not like the big shouter, big yeller, not like a Cody always talking and cajoling. But in terms of presence and having a trust, I think that that stands out a ton. And even to the extent of comparing him to Willy Bally, I think that is where he stands even higher compared to the likes of him. That you just got to look at him and he's got that calm assurance, even more than Bally did. Comfort on the ball, can spray a pass. Just the list goes on with what he's bringing right now.
John McKenzie on YouTube said, when you crash into a brick wall, no one ever blames the wall. That's a great one. I'm also reminded of a quote by the late, great Dikembe Mutombo, who he was great blocking the ball. and he would break a lot of players' noses, and they were asking like, well, how you feel about that? And he said, you don't run to the train, you run away from the train. So that's Agbadou. You don't.
This is
run
the second podcast in 2 days I've been on where Dikembe Mutombo has been mentioned.
Yeah,
that's very random.
I was just happy to hear you reference a quote, Josh, that wasn't from Three Body Problem, because every time you're like, it reminds me of this quote, I feel like you're going down that route. But thank God we're talking about something fun instead of Jeff Shee.
That's right. Although, hey, Jeff Shee at the Women's Wolves game, right, Danny?
Yeah, good for him.
Nice.
Well, and I texted you guys after the match was over, and I said, so we're going to get Bournemouth or Brighton in the next round, right? I mean, that's inevitable. Well, the draw came out. Away game, check. From the EPL, check. About to play them, check. Begins with a B. Yep, there you go. It was inevitable, right, Paul?
It was all of those combinations. Just it had to be, and that like there's an element to this cup run that's fair enough. This is 2 away games, tricky opponents from the league below. Okay, we're progressing, we're on to the next one, and it's going to be the same. And but this time it's that opponent in our league who's doing well. But I just think that at this stage of the competition, it's something what you start to come to expect, and I'm not dreading it in any way. We could go out because they're a good form team at the moment, but equally we could go down there not having the pressure of the league competition. Again, put out a pretty strong team that is giving the cup some good attention and give them a really good game. So I'm not jumping up and down in excitement, but I'm certainly not dismissing it that we're going to go out.
Well, and I mean, there weren't that many easy draws either. I mean, the only ones who aren't EPL are Cardiff City, Preston, and Burnley, who play each other, and then Plymouth Argyle, Millwall too. But still, I mean, you were bound to get an EPL team, I feel like. But, hey, come away with a win here. Maybe you get the winner of Burnley Preston. I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, like, at this point when we got to the draw, genuinely Bournemouth was the team that I least wanted, because you look at the other, quote unquote big teams that are still in it, and they're not ones that I particularly fear now that Liverpool are out, I mean, I know it's like kind of ridiculous to think we get a result against City, but like, honestly, City at Molineux right now, like, it's just like they're fallible, extremely fallible. So
they're
it's like
dumpster fire right now.
Yeah, and like they've got a better, more expensive squad than us, but also they can't seem to put together a complete performance. So like it just feels like there's hope there. Whereas like I'd rather play like an extremely fallible team that's probably going to finish in the top 3 than like an extremely on form like upper mid table team where it's just like, they like know what they're doing and they're just going to do it to us 2 weekends in a row. That's the other thing is like, come on, help us out here. It's 2 away games to Bournemouth on consecutive weekends. And in between we have to host Fulham at Molineux. So they can't even stay down there. Yeah. Meanwhile, Bournemouth, of course, have 2 consecutive home games against Wolves. And where do they have to go in the midweek game? Oh, the South Coast, where they already are, to Brighton. It's just, it's all just luck of the draw, but it's shitty luck.
Well, you could win this game, and like Josh said, you could conceivably get the winner of the other championship matchup, which scares the hell out of me because I don't know that I can handle another quarterfinal against a championship team with Wembley on the line and Wolves not winning. I'd rather just lose to Bournemouth at this point. Oh my God. I'm still so scarred by that Coventry game.
No, but I mean,
I mean,
in
we
reality,
had like 8 guys out that match.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
In reality, just like Paul said, we're at the point in the competition where anything can happen. It's all one-off games, like you just see what you can do in that one game. And there are not a few, all Premier League matches out there. So there's going to be, some Premier League teams that drop out, only Newcastle or Brighton will go through, for instance. So it's just like, at this point, you hope that you can get through and then you see what the draw is next round. I don't know.
Alex, who's more important to their team's success? Is it Toti Gomes for Wolves or Rodri for Man City?
Wow. I think you have to say Rodri, given the precipitous drop of where City was and where they are now.
My
Did you guys see
goodness.
that tifo, I guess you would call it, that they had at the Etihad today before the Real Madrid match? It was a picture of Rodri kissing the Ballon d'Or that said "Stop crying your heart out." Or also a reference to an Oasis song. Of course, we know the Gallagher brothers are huge City supporters and natives, and obviously directed at Real Madrid, who boycotted as a whole team the ceremony because Vinicius was not going to win the award,
Yes.
which is hilarious. But it's even more funny that they put that up, have a relatively good performance without Rodri, and then inevitable Real Madrid scores 2 goals in like the last couple minutes and beats them. Oh man, how fun is that? Yeah,
I'll send you my betting slip after this, Alex. You'll appreciate it.
was it I have a feeling it was a live bet on
It
Real
was not.
Madrid
It was
after
not.
after they went
But
down.
let me tell you, I
Okay.
was sweating when they fell down 2-1. So.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, City can't say they're unbeaten with Rodri. That's one thing. So we could say that for now under Vitor Pereira with Toti Gomes right now.
So, Paul, now this is 2 wins in a row. Obviously, the Villa game, much bigger result. So, what do Wolves take from this win that they had against Blackburn?
Again, momentum. I think not a lot of fans would have looked to that Villa game and thought we guaranteed 3 points in this one. So to come off the back of that with the 3 points, beating a good team at home, probably at least getting 2 more points than many of us thought that we'd get, being out the bottom 3, now another win in the cup. It gives that momentum, and I think the pressure's off a little now based on that Villa result, mainly now that we go into Anfield on Sunday. Tricky, like horrible place to go, but it's not as drastic as it needs to be anymore, and they can play with a little freedom. So I think collectively, all of that, bringing it all together, I think we're in a pretty decent spot to go there on Sunday and not have that immediate pressure on us that we might have had we not won against Villa.
Yeah. So let's talk about that matchup. It is at Liverpool on Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central. And Liverpool has had an interesting little time here. They got upset by Plymouth Argyle in the FA Cup. And then this Wednesday, prior to the Wolves match, they travel to Everton in the Merseyside derby. So, Paul, what do you think Liverpool's form is going to be like entering that match?
Yeah, there's going to be a little riding on the midweek game for sure. Last derby at Goodison. So they're always tricky fixtures, regardless of places within the league. So it's not. Yeah, I think out of everything, it's not the worst time to be coming up against them. But I just think you've got that certain caliber of team and caliber of players within it that even if they're not 100% come Sunday, they've still got plenty to beat us. If everything clicks for them and gels. But the flip side of that is, again, we're coming into it knowing that we got the basis of something potentially. We've got certainly more solidity at the back. So I don't know if we could keep it pretty tight into that 60th, 65, 70th minute. Maybe there's a surprise on the cards.
Danny, what do you think Liverpool's going to throw out their line, because they do have a derby tomorrow, and then the next Wednesday they're playing Villa. So Wolves are kind of in the between there. Those seem like two bigger matchups than a lowly 17th place team.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an extremely valid question for them. I just think that I don't know. I talked a lot about this match, as you can imagine, yesterday with DU Football Show, because we were just talking about the FA Cup. And, it's kind of a weird one because they did a lot of rotation in the FA Cup. And I don't think that falling out of the cup, terribly matters to them. The quadruple has never been done because of how difficult that is. But the bigger problem is that all these backups that they put in really didn't cover themselves in glory. So if you assume you play strongest 11 against Everton at Goodison, last Merseyside derby that's ever going to happen at Goodison, then what happens if that game becomes extremely attritional, which I think that's kind of what I expect from it at a minimum. I'm not saying that Everton are going to get something out of it, but they're going to want to make it ugly. And so if that's the case, and if there are knocks, or if Liverpool don't get a win, then what do? Do you bring in someone who is supposed to be a backup, but who, couldn't even get a shot on target against Plymouth until whatever the 70th minute? I think I don't know. This podcast is coming out tomorrow on the day of the Merseyside derby. So check that game, see what goes on then, because I think that anything but an easy win means that there could be, a huge question mark over what the starting lineup is against Wolves. Because like you said, they have to do it again against Villa midweek afterwards.
Yeah, and with them also still holding top of the table, but they've got a slight lead already on it. So maybe they view Wolves as, well, let's maybe rest a couple guys, thinking that getting a little overconfident. I guess that would be more of a Klopp thing to do, wouldn't it?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Yep. So, Alex, what do you think Wolves' lineup is going to look like?
Oh, I'm tempted to say the same, although I think there's an argument to be made for Andre coming back in.
Andre.
For Bellegarde. Not that Bellegarde has done anything really worthy of being dropped. I just think, with Zhao healthy, he's got to play. He's always one of our standouts, and I just think you probably play a little bit more of a defensive game against a team like Liverpool, because a 0-0 would actually be a great result when you're going to Anfield. So I think from that perspective, I think I would expect Andre to come back in. I think the back five has to be the same. Sorry, actually, I think Aït-Nouri would come back in because Rodrigo Gomes played and started in the FA Cup. So there was some rotation, but it was a strong 11. I think we go with our strongest 11, which would be Aït-Nouri coming in back into the side. Also, plus he always just has an inexplicably good performance defensively against Mohamed Salah. So whatever, just run that back, please. But yeah, I think you go with the same back three. I don't know if
you'd start Sané still over Doc.
That's a tough one. I think you can make an argument.
Didn't have a great first half.
Yeah, he did not have a good first half. He'll probably get dropped. That's true. I guess you would play Doc because he's probably been better than anybody else there. I would put him back. I think there's a comfort level that I have there that is a little bit higher, even though it's not his natural position, I guess you could say, than that with Santi. But yeah, otherwise unchanged. I don't know. You could make an argument for, the forward line changing. I thought Hwang played well. He got the assist. I think he looked a little bit. Oh, well, no, he got hurt. So
He got hurt though, yeah.
damn, it's like, man, this is brutal.
I've got nothing to go on this, but I just the vibes around Strand Larson are that it's not as bad as we at first feared. We don't have anybody particularly saying that he's going to be back soon, and I don't expect him to start at Anfield, but just like, I don't know, it's like little things, like the very next game, he was like out on the pitch after we won, like he was like right there on the sideline, like moving around, and just like, these are things that if you have like a fairly bad hamstring injury, they're not letting you do. Like you just sit your ass in the chair the whole time, and so it's just like, I don't know. It would be a huge boost if he were at least fit enough for the bench. But who knows?
Yeah. Here's one I'll posit to you. And I know his finishing was not good, but it was his first match. Can you make an argument for Marshall Monetzi coming into the lineup, a size and physicality argument, going up against Liverpool, but playing, I guess, as like a quasi part of our front line, but also maybe being more like a 5-3-2 with Cunha and Geddes up top? That's the one thing I would think maybe would be considered, because if Strand Larson can't
I just
play,
get Owen Otasoe like PTSD.
You don't like him, huh? Yeah.
I mean, no, I don't have a problem with him. I just think
Josh has buried this guy already.
No,
I just think playing like I think playing him up front in like a false nine thing is I don't know. Paul, what do you think?
I think it's got some potential, but I just think Vitor's he's so like rigid in what he wants to do in the 5-2-3, and I think that what we saw Monetzi on Sunday is what we'll see moving forward. That he's gonna be an impact sub. Maybe he's gonna get a start in a 2, depending on the opponent at home. That those types of fixtures. So I think Vitor's too structured in wanting to run the 5-2-3, but even with that, I think if Wang's coming out now, what does that open up to? If it does allow us to still have some solidity, I'd probably like to see that front 3, if Strand Larsen's not back, of Cunha in his role, Geddes centrally, and Rodrigo Gomes on the right. So you got some attacking output on that flank, and a bit of extra speed as well. So
now you're talking, Paul. You're talking my
that's
language.
what I see. Some potential away from home, at least.
Friend of the show, Drew Breyer, brings up here in our chat on our live stream. If Santi starts, do you put him in the middle where he's more comfortable and flank him with Toti and Agbadou? What do you think, Danny?
I think it's definitely an option at some point. I think it's probably like John replied there in the comments. I think might be too big of a risk in this game. Although it's interesting because I think that there's some wisdom in the fact that like we're expecting to be camped out in our box a lot. And so does that potentially negate some of the issues that Santi had? I mean, he was getting run past by a speedy winger in our last game. So, I don't really think that we're going to be pushing up high enough for that to really happen to him in this game. So does it really matter? I mean, I still feel safer with Doc in the back line. Again, even if we're back in our box, because he's such a good header of the ball. But, I think that there is some wisdom to keeping Santi in. It's just that like he's like been useful at times this season and even like looked pretty okay sometimes, but I don't think he's ever done something that's like made me feel safe with him on the pitch.
Yeah.
Like I feel like confident that's like, oh, I'm not going to think about this guy for most of the game. Like
he's had a lot more shocking moments than he has brilliant moments.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it was also like Nelson was pushing up high in that game against Blackburn. So I just, there are mitigating factors, but I just don't know. I think it's like one of those things where it's too big a call. I think that at Anfield, he's probably going to go with safe choices, which is like we said, like decisions like going back to João Gomes and Andre is like, it kind of makes every bit of sense to just put in your two best defensive midfielders. We're just going to make life difficult for them and hit them on the break. So even if that means Bellegarde dropping out, it means that, we're going to stay alive until the 70th minute, hopefully.
Ideally. Well, guys, let's look at the prediction area. So, Danny predicting that nice little 2-0 Wolves win. Congratulations. You are up to 26 points on this. 26. That's crazy.
I'm going to start playing the kids and focusing on the Champions League.
Alex, you're in second with 17 points. Paul gained a point on me. He texted us 2-1 Wolves before the match, so he's got 12. I was not up for the cup, and as a result, I am still at the bottom of the table with 10 points. So Danny, you go first. What do you think of this match against Liverpool?
I was only kind of joking about that, about taking the predictions a little less seriously, but I'll play the kids this time, and I'll say that we're going to get a win 2-1 at Anfield.
I like it. Alex?
It's going to be one of those where it's super cagey too. It's going to be like score one on the early side, and then takes forever for them to equalize, and it feels like it's all over, and then another one on the break or something heart-stopping.
Nice. Alex?
I am anticipating a leggy Liverpool team getting some type of questionable call go their way for a goal, and a Matheus Cunha answering with a equalizer for a nice 1-1 result at Anfield.
1-1 draw. Man. Positive vibes all around, Paul.
I was liking that 1-1 draw. I'm going to stick with the outcome, but go 2-2.
2-2 draw. Oh, man, you guys are killing me here.
No, this is a tap-in, Josh.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah,
right?
I know.
You're the one who needs points now. Go for the obvious answer.
Yeah, I guess. I don't mind staying in last place, though. So hopefully Wolves do win. And I'll say a 2-1 Liverpool win, with probably Wolves giving up those 2 goals in the last 10 minutes.
Oh, God. Okay.
No Stupid Questions is brought to you by Esfuerzo Wines. Located just north of Santa Barbara, California, Esfuerzo Wines showcases passion and 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. Whether you're toasting some Vino de Vitor or winding down after a day of work, let Esfuerzo Wines transport you to the heart of wine country with each sip. Now at esfuerzowines.com, you can use the promo code VITOR, that's VITOR, at checkout to receive a 30% discount off your order. And don't forget to try the special edition 1-pack wines to show your passion and support for Wolves with each glass. This message is intended for those of legal drinking age. Do not drink and drive. Excessive alcohol consumption may be harmful to your health. If you or someone you know is struggling with alcohol abuse, please seek help. Esfuerzo Wines reminds you to enjoy their product responsibly and in moderation.
All right. No Stupid Questions time, brought to you by our friends at Esfuerzo Wines. You see it on the bottom of the screen if you're watching live on the stream, esfuerzowines.com, promo code VITOR, and you'll receive a 30% discount. By the way, Vino for Vitor is in play. We did get a victory. So my No Stupid Question that I will submit first is, Josh, who's picking the wine and who's giving the toast? We forgot to do that.
Oh yeah, that's
the
true.
Blackburn game. That's my bad.
So I will because I forgot to mention this tweet that I saw, and this will be my player that's picking out the wine. And this tweet was from Smithers40FA on X. Said, I don't agree with the idea of cloning humans. However, I would make an exception for 11 Agbadous. So Agbadou gets to pick out the wine.
Also,
and as far as making the toast, probably got to be Cunha. Scored the goal, wore the captain's band. Give me Cunha as making the toast.
Yeah, I like it. Any other nominations, or are we sticking with Josh's pick there?
No, I think
works.
That's about right.
Yeah, I think so too. And Agbadou won Player of the Month. How about that for your guy
First
coming
month.
in? First month with the club wins that award. So excellent stuff from him. Okay, so let's get to the questions. Each week when we do No Stupid Questions brought to you by Sferzo Wines, you can tweet or X your questions into us at WLWpod is the show's handle. You could email them to hello@wholelotofwolves.com if you prefer to do email. And for those of you watching on the stream, you could always throw No Stupid Questions into the chat. Many of you have been chiming in with questions throughout the show that we do, but if you want anything related to Wolves now in this segment, this is your platform. So let's go with Drew Breyer, who did email us. hello@wholelotofwolves.com, asking in relation to Cunha's release clause that would still make him the most expensive departure. Is there anyone else on the squad that will eclipse it? So that release clause is what, 60 what million pounds?
62 and a half.
62. Yeah.
So anyone that you think, not right now, but let's play it out over time. Is there anyone on this squad that Wolves will sell for more than 62.5 million pounds?
Nope.
I don't think so.
João Gomez might be around 50. May.
Yeah. He'd have to really
unless Chelsea gets involved and they offer 100 million for just God knows why. But
that's always the asterisk if there's some extremely rich club that makes a foolish decision. But yeah,
the Saudi league exists. I mean, come on, let's shoot for the stars here. It's only 62.
I mean, you never know. The World Cup here's in less than a year and a half now. João Gomez goes out and balls for Brazil and wins, like Enzo Fernandez. Maybe, but I would say no. Cunha's is going to be the highest.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I don't think there's anyone in this current squad that eclipses that. Okay, let's do this question from Stone Cold Strand Larson, formerly known as Nothing But Neto, and of course the host of the Crying Wolves podcast on X. He asked, Josh scoffed at it last week, but is Munetzi another Dendonker? He got into great positions crashing the box late, but couldn't put a shot on target.
So I have to defend myself. I wasn't scoffing at the idea of him being like Dendonker. I was scoffing at the fact that we'd have another Dendonker on this roster because, I don't know, just like your inexplicable hate for Neto, I just have an inexplicable hate for Dendonker. And Paul knows this because I was even before the podcast started, like I hated Dendonker, man. I was always dogging him at the at our home bar.
This wasn't something I fully knew about. This was all before I became a regular part of the pod. Yeah. I didn't know about your deep-seated hatred for Dendonker.
I just thought he was always so useless. I mean, like at least Sarabia, you know how I say Sarabia's a jack of all trades, master of none. At least Sarabia like comes through in moments. Dendonker, when did he ever come through in a positive way for a big moment?
So he's
you know what Dendonker's lasting legacy is for Wolves, and that's giving up the freaking PK against Watford in the FA Cup semis.
And also putting in the goal for the greatest assist ever, which was Adama running 70 yards up the line against West Ham and launching it in. Dendonker had an easy header.
Yeah. I think, that was against West Ham. So that was definitely when I stood up in the bar because we share it with West Ham. And I said, it's a Dama-Tom, motherfuckers!
Oh, man. Got
good
a
old
question
days.
here from Todd, aka what is it again? Sexual
Triple
Wesley
X sexy sexual. Yes.
triple X sexy sexual asked, and you can see the question on the screen there. I mean, this isn't necessarily related to wolves, but it's a fun one. If all four of you competed in an arm wrestling competition, who would win? I think there's some height bias going on here that I have to.
I
put
I
assume
wouldn't
that
have a
there's-
chance.
Yeah, I assume that this is like a tournament style knockout, not all four of us at the same time arm wrestling.
Yeah, I would think, in which case I don't know. Does being longer make it harder to generate the torque in an arm
It's
wrestling?
gotta be easier.
That's what she said.
I really didn't even mean to make that as innuendo
As
I
triple X
did.
sexy sexual as it was.
Yeah,
Sexual
whoops.
I'm going to invest in one of those arm training things now, like the truckers use, like Rock and Sylvester Stallone in Over the Top. He's driving around and working out his arm wrestling arm.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I'm going Paul on this one. Let's see my money's
Oh,
on.
yeah.
I don't know
Not
what.
even close.
Yeah.
I mean, Josh, you're the bookmaker. Like, you would have to set the odds for
Oh,
this.
Paul would be like
That's
a
a good-
negative. Would be like minus 250.
Yeah.
You'd probably be second, Danny. Or
You think
no,
so?
not Danny. No, Alex.
I was
Alex
gonna
would be
say.
second. Alex
Yeah,
would probably
well, I
be
would
about probably plus 180. Danny, you'd be looking at plus 300, and I would be plus 10,000.
Plus,
Wow.
come on. I don't know
I'd be
about
like
that.
Leicester City.
See, now I kind of feel like
Won a
we have to find this out when the next time we're all in the same place.
Yeah,
because
I
now
agree.
I'm so curious how accurate this actually
I
is.
mean, and the chances are triple X sexual sexy would be attending, so he can serve as the judge.
That's right.
Yeah. When is the next time we're all going to be in the same place, by the way? Do we even know? That made me sad.
Well,
ask-
hopefully Wolves come back over the summer.
I was
We'll
gonna say,
see.
ask me again when they announce their summer plans.
Yeah.
Been
Yeah.
quiet on any potential springtime Premier League morning again. Usually
that's true.
you've heard some mention of it by now for the second one of the season if they run that back. So
I gotta think they're
Yeah.
gonna go to the West Coast here at some point.
Probably.
And you still, I mean, I know that the Raul days are over, but you still don't think they'd go to like Texas / like the, I don't know, what do you call that region? The mid south of the nation? I feel like it would.
Well, it's
that's the
Texas.
region.
That's all it is. It is Texas.
I mean, you're as big as a nation. I mean, it is what it is with that.
I mean, look, I
Um,
gave as big a pitch as I could for Texas, but ultimately, Wolves aren't best at geography either, so I don't know.
Well, I would have taken some lessons, hopefully. I have a very, very quick no stupid question. And I don't know how many of you got to watch the signing day show, but my question is, between a full-time job and hosting Whole Lot of Wolves and being the creator and main person for Houston Wolves, how does Paul LePage find time to also work for Wolverhampton Wanderers? Did you guys see this? Sorry, I'm clearly delaying because I'm trying to load the picture on the live stream of Paul's doppelganger within the Wolves organization. But from certain angles in that video of the
looked
signing
just
day,
like
the
him.
behind the scenes of the signing day, it really did look quite like Paul, kind of like looking down at his notes like he is right now.
Like he is right now.
That was really good. We'll have to.
They had the same haircut and everything, and like both tall guys. I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
They've only got like 3 haircuts in England, so
That was
Oh,
Danny.
man.
Guys, that was Danny that said that. I did not say that.
Yeah, usually Josh is the one that's going
I'm
to piss
usually the
somebody
one
off.
with
I've built up
Um,
so much goodwill. I'm squandering it now.
Oh my goodness. No.
Yeah,
I will
Stu,
add
that was
that-
not me.
it was corroborated by my brother as well, who was in touch to say exactly the same thing. So
So there
Yeah,
it
there
is.
it is.
Forgive it not being full screen. I was doing it in a rush. But tell me that's not Paul LePage behind a other Matt, who seems like he does a lot of work, considering he's not the sporting director, Matt. Matt Wild, right? I believe his name is.
Matt Wild.
That looks like Paul right there texting like,
Well, holding the
guys,
coffee.
get your
I
shit
mean, it
together.
is.
This
It is.
episode I
Yeah.
was out.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
this
only
is
thing I can
Paul all the
say
way.
is that Matt Wild doesn't look particularly tall, and Phil Hayward looks only like a couple inches taller than him. So I'm going to guess that if they're standing next to each other, it's going to be pretty obvious who's who.
Well, yeah. I still haven't seen Paul in person, so I'm still going to be shocked when I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, just think about after João Gomez's goal, Alex, everybody's, and then here came Agbadou and he was like towering over him.
Yeah.
That'll be Paul when he meets you.
Yep. Yeah.
Paul
weird to
is
think
our
about.
Agbadou.
Yeah, he is, and the leadership and solid head on his shoulders. All those things
Yeah,
check
yeah.
out.
He's a big
Also, the
motherfucker.
pirouettes in the box,
The big, taking on multiple position players in your own box. Oh Jesus! All right, I'll turn it over to Paul for the final no stupid question of the night.
Yeah, I've got one based on some transfer news most recently, but different sports. So I want to know, as I'm a total novice to it, how do you explain the Luka Doncic trade in Wolves terms?
Yes. So I think I got one here. This would be like trading Cole Palmer for Modric at Real Madrid. That I think that's kind of a similar thing. What do you think, Alex?
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I'm trying to think of like who the LeBron is in this scenario. That's like kind of somehow like moving all these pawns around.
That would be Mbappe is LeBron.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's fair. I'll go with that. I mean, it was just shock. It was just. It also just. I think the real shock of it all with that trade was just like how out of absolutely nowhere it came. I don't feel like moves like that generally get executed and like news breaks of it without anyone having any idea. Like even back in the Miami Heat Big 3 days, there was a lot of smoke before there was fire. There was a lot of people who anticipated something like that happening.
Who's
getting rid of Neto and replacing with
that,
Forbes? Oh my God. Yeah.
Who's a good EPL center back that gets hurt all the time?
I don't know. That's a good question. I feel like I should know that off the top of my head.
Because that would probably be the accurate description. It would be like Cole Palmer being swapped with somebody like that, like a when they're healthy, a good center back.
Tyrone Mings.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
good shout. Guy's never playing.
Okay, so Cole Palmer for Mings. There you go.
Yeah, good call. Drew agrees. He chimed in with Mings as well.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Thanks everybody for writing.
Did that answer all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good to be up with that.
Thanks everyone for writing in your no stupid questions, Xing them in, emailing them in, and thanks to our friends at Esfuerzo Wines. Go to esfuerzowines.com. Use the promo code VTOR, 30% off your order. You won't regret it. Great wine from great people and a winemaking family, 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle at Esfuerzo Wines.
That brings this week's show to an end. Thanks to Alex producing, Danny on the socials. You, our listener or our streamer, we thank you for your support, because if it wasn't for that, then there would not be a show. We're going to be back next Monday. It's going to review everything what happened at Anfield and then preview that first trip to Bournemouth for the league game the following Saturday on February the 22nd. So in the meantime, if you meet a new friend this week, give them a smile as wide as Marshall Munetzi and say, "Up the mighty Wolves."